Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and today I'm going to talk about the 1985 Wave 4 Masters of the Universe Spikor action figure from Mattel. Since Kenner changed the look of action figures in general with their Star Wars line in the late 1970s, 1982's He-Man was the first action figure to successfully come up with a new look and size for action figures. Many imitators followed, but most kids wanted official Masters of the Universe action figures and not cheap knockoffs. The majority of the figures who seemed like the main cast of the Masters of the Universe characters arrived during the first and second wave, or they appeared in the cartoon before they were action figures, like the Sorceress or King Randor. It did feel like they tried to make Fisto from Wave 3 into a main character, but the universe had been established pretty well by then. With Wave 4, they did succeed in introducing a very memorable character with Hordak, but even the coolest of the new figures from that point on didn't really seem to be as much a part of the story as those from the first two waves. It was in this fourth wave that Mattel rolled out Spikor. They did try to include him a little bit in the cartoon and in the comic book, but I doubt most people who were only casual Masters of the Universe fans as kids even remember Spikor today. The concept was pretty solid. He was a purple dude with a head and torso covered in spikes. He had a trident for a left arm, and his accessory was an orange spiked club. The cuff of his trident arm was originally red, but as you can see, the red paint has worn off of this figure. According to his package, Spikor was the untouchable master of evil combat. The artwork on the back of his package shows him fighting He-Man. We found out in one of the mini-comics that he was some kind of a blacksmith, but aside from that, we don't really know a lot about this prickly monster. I believe Spikor only made 3 appearances in the mini-comics. His first appearance, and the main comic book that most people think of when they remember Spikor from the comics, is Spikor Strikes. Spikor appears on the cover of this issue. In the issue, Spikor has been sent by Skeletor to a small village to distract He-Man so that Skeletor could capture Teela. Although Skeletor expects He-Man to leave the battle with Spikor to save Teela, he instead sends Cyclone to rescue Teela and continues to battle Spikor himself. He-Man first bends Spikor's trident and finally defeats Spikor by swinging him into a tree, and Spikor's spikes make him stick to the tree. It's interesting to note that in this issue, Spikor carries a strangely shaped club, which is quite a bit different from the spiked club that came with the action figure. His second appearance was in Hordak, the Ruthless Leader's Revenge. In this issue, Hordak tricks Skeletor into thinking that they have an alliance, but in reality, Hordak plans to overthrow Skeletor. Spikor appears on the cover of this mini-comic. He can also be seen on a few pages fighting alongside Skeletor in an attack on Castle Grayskull. Overall, Spikor isn't in this issue very much. In his third and final appearance in the mini-comics, Spikor appears briefly in The Terror Claw's Strike. Skeletor first mentions Spikor on page 4, where he says that Spikor has fashioned a new weapon for him. Then we see Spikor for the first time in the issue on page 5, working as a blacksmith with a different attachment for his left arm. Spikor looks up from his work as Skeletor arrives. We see Spikor in a total of 4 panels on this page. When we first see the Terror Claws that Spikor has created on page 6, Spikor appears clearly in the background. Spikor appears in 3 panels on this page, and that's the last we see of him in this issue. Spikor didn't show up much more in the Masters of the Universe cartoon than he did in the comics. Spikor's first appearance in the cartoon is in the episode The Gambler. A magician tricks the widget Smudge, who's the chief guard at the Korodite reactor, into gambling with him for some Korodite, and then the magician uses magic to beat Smudge. Later in the episode, this magician meets with Spikor, who's there representing Skeletor to buy the Korodite on his behalf. Spikor introduces himself by name just before He-Man shows up and chases him away. Spikor is in this episode for less than a minute. In the episode Visitors from Earth, A spaceship from Earth crash lands on Eternia. The astronaut comes face to face with Skeletor and Spikor when he exits the ship. Skeletor captures the astronaut, and Spikor is present while Skeletor questions the astronaut. Spikor and Too Bad take the astronaut away when Skeletor is done questioning him. They take him to a prison cell where Evil Lyn tells them to guard the astronaut. That's about all we see of Spikor in this episode. I believe Spikor's last appearance in the Masters of the Universe cartoons is in the episode The Games. He first appears along with Merman and Beastman in Snake Mountain as Skeletor discusses who will represent the forces of evil for Eternia in a game that aliens have prepared to understand good versus evil. Skeletor has created the Evil Geyser, which can increase someone's evil by 10 times. Merman and Beastman back away, unwittingly leaving Spikor as a volunteer to try it out. After being affected by the Evil Geyser, Spikor is selected to represent evil in the games. Because Prince Adam hadn't changed into He-Man, Fisto is selected to represent the side of good in the games. The contestants are given instructions, and the games begin. The problem for Fisto is that while the side of good is bound by the rules, the side of evil is allowed to cheat. Although He-Man is not allowed to help Fisto, he is allowed to take his place. Of course, in the end, Spikor loses to He-Man. Interestingly, Spikor did make a couple of other appearances in the cartoons. First, he showed up briefly in the She-Ra cartoon episode of Shadows and Skulls. Shadow Weaver gets angry at Hordak and looks to Skeletor as an ally in her plot against Hordak. Spikor can be seen talking to Skeletor when he first shows up in the episode, but Spikor is only in the episode for a few seconds. Also, Spikor was in the He-Man and She-Ra holiday special. He can be seen briefly near the beginning of the episode, flying in Skeletor's ship, the Collector, with several of Skeletor's other B-list henchmen. That's about all I can think of when it comes to Spikor's appearances in the franchise. What did you think of the vintage Masters of the Universe Spikor figure? Did you have him as a kid? Was he a favorite of yours, or did you make a point of avoiding him? Tell me in the comments below. Also, please give this video a like, share it on social media, and if you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell. As always, thanks for watching.